Shut the door.
All right, family, we are live. Let me let you come on in the room and let's get ready for conversation. You know, I'm not by myself tonight. I've got some more, what I would say, so somebody else that represents Black excellence on today.
Oh.
I am excited to have our sister, Dr. Kristin Austin, in the house, and I'm going to introduce her in a second. I need to give you opportunity to come on into the room. Please get in the comment section. Let me know that you are here and that you are ready for the conversation.
Yeah.
This is Doing Life. Y'all know life stands for living in fulfilled excellence. We are excited that God has sent so many of us in different spaces and places that we can represent Him wherever we are. So come on,
Amen.
Join the conversation. Come on in the room. I am so excited. I want to welcome you, whether you're joining me on the church's page or on my personal page, or you are on YouTube. Let me see. Vet, I see you. Good to see you. Blessings and favor on your life. We actually got more snow than y'all got right now. Leslie, how are you doing? Blessings and favor on your life. Good to see you and have you. As you all come in, please do me a favor and make sure that you are sharing this. Let somebody know that we are indeed live, and this is another conversation as we seek to do life, as we seek to live in fulfilled excellence. It is just 7 o'clock right now. And I see you all coming in the room. As you come in, do me a favor, get in the comment section, let me know. I can see your comments definitely on the church's page, and I can see your comments on YouTube, but I'm gonna have to bring up my phone so I can see you if you are commenting on my personal page, because I want to make sure that I'm giving you all love who may be there. Leash, I see you. What's up, Leash? Good to have you in the house. And just so you know, if you're on my personal page, I can't bring your comments. It's certainly good to see you. Let me see those hearts flying as you come in the room. Hey, Tidra, what's up with you? Good to see you in the house. Miss Ray Ann, good to see you as well. It is. Oh, you've got the kids. I'm glad that the kids are with us on today. So you all continue to come in. Make sure that you're sharing this. Let somebody know that we are live. Let me bring my special guest on screen. I am so glad to have Dr. Kristin Austin in the house. Let me do her some justice. She is a lover of talking, tacos, and Target.
Yes. Yes, get it correct. That's the only thing we need to know.
She's got all of these advanced degrees, but she said, I need you to let them know I love talking, tacos, and Target. And so
That's it. What else is there?
I know that's right. Look, Kristin, it is so good to have you. I appreciate you doing this with me on today. Many of you know, especially those who've been connected to me for a while, you know that I've known Kristin for years. Probably what were we in 8th grade or so, maybe 9th grade when you it was 9th grade when you all moved. And so certainly am blessed. Of course, you all know her father is a mentor of mine. Probably the first 5 years of ministry, people couldn't tell if I was Darrell Cook or Dr. Charles Mock. And of course, and of course, he is still a major influence. Of course, you all know Sister Jennifer Mock, and you all know the family. But it is so good to have Kristin. So, Kristin, why don't I just give you opportunity to say what's up to the people?
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy that you all would take some time out of your evening to talk about education. I look like my mom. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love talking about education. So I'm really excited to give you some insider tips, some backdoor information, give you access to things that are perhaps historically reserved for those with large incomes and a big repertoire. So we're just going to level the playing field this evening.
Yeah, I am so excited about this because this is a conversation I told our people. Some of them are live, others are going to be watching this replay. But it's so important that we had this conversation because too often when we think about it, we like wait until our child is in 12th grade and in the senior, we're trying to figure things out, trying to understand what needs to be done. And we haven't had certain conversations. And so I wanted to bring you on really to empower so many people so that we can start having conversations earlier. But then also, I'm sure that there's some information on tonight for those who may be in the thick of it and they just need some encouragement. So we're going to be talking about a little bit of everything.
We're going to get all the people.
I know that's right. Miss Rayanne is on. She said, "How is Sarek?"
He's good. He was just here. He was just in here. Yes. He's so good.
My goodness. Kristin, of course, is the wife of Sarek. She's also the mother of 3.
Oh my God.
Why don't you go ahead and call the babies' names off? Of course, they're not babies anymore.
They're too. They're terrible. So I have Sarek Jr. He's 12. And then Cameron, that's the only girl. She's in the middle. She's going to be 10 next month. And then the littlest one is Callan, and he's 6. They're all terrible.
And you love it.
No. They're terrible.
Oh my goodness. That is such a blessing, to be healthy.
Yep. Healthy.
Have a beautiful family. God is so good. And of course, because of that, I'm really grateful that you took some time with us on tonight. So why don't we get right to it? Let's kind of talk about what you think are a few issues that parents need to consider as they prepare their children for college. And of course, we're not talking about parents, we're talking about grandparents, because some of them are on here as well. So why don't we start there? Because I know that that's probably one of the heaviest questions I'm getting.
Okay. So one thing that I want to start with, this may or may not apply to everyone, but if it applies to one person, this is going to be a deal breaker for you.
Yeah.
If your student has an IEP, and so an IEP is a type of learning plan. If your student has a learning disability, a physical disability, an emotional disability, anything like that, they likely have something called an IEP, an individualized education plan. Those are not legally binding documents at the collegiate level. So if your student has had an IEP at any point in K through 12, the biggest thing I want to tell you is, 1, make sure it's updated before they graduate, even if they're not using it, because some students have an IEP, but they don't use all of the resources. My daughter has an IEP, so I fully get it. I understand the importance of them. But when you get to college, universities are not required to abide by them anymore. So most universities have what they call perhaps like a disability center, or they might call it a learning differences center or accommodations. But it's not going to be just like K through 12. So it's really, really important that if your student has an IEP, that you get it updated before they graduate. And when they go to college, every single conversation you have with admissions, with housing, which is where they would live, with their academic advisors, tell them my student has an IEP. And then the sub bullet of that is make sure your student understands their IEP. Because I'm a faculty member and I have a lot of circumstances where a student will say, well, I have an IEP. And then I'll say, okay, what are your accommodations? And they have no idea. So it could be getting help with taking notes. It could be getting their test questions read to them. But the student has to know that as well. So that's the first answer. And I recognize that this may not apply to everyone. But if you know someone whose child has an IEP, make sure that they are very intentional about that in college. The other thing is apply to every single type of school that you think that you can afford. So sometimes people will say, don't apply to a private school. They cost so much. Well, that is very true pre-COVID. Now, private schools are discounting their tuition so much that they've now become competitive with public schools. So I'm a public school girl through and through, public educated, public. I got my doctorate at private, but that's because it was cheapest. So, but if I could have went public, I would have. So now you just want to apply everywhere because the discounting that's going on is really insane. And it's going to be like this for a while because of COVID. All of the universities are having to catch up with revenue. Those are two big things to start with.
That's a good piece of information. Let me ask you this, because as you're talking, one of the things that we miss is that if the child is going to excel, parental involvement is going to be necessary at every step of the way. So you're talking about some things that parents should be involved in, questions that they should be asking. And so involvement for the parent isn't just about in grade school or in high school. You're talking about involvement even on that next level.
I think that for Gen Z, that is the norm. So for any student that just came through the K through 12 experience, parents, families, grandmothers, aunties, uncles have been groomed to be involved in their education K through 12. They're getting weekly newsletters. They're having whatever family night at the school. So you've all already been groomed to be involved in your students' education. So once you get to college, it changes a little bit, but it doesn't go away. So once the student becomes an adult, which I very heavily emphasize air quotes, they become 18. And so the university isn't required to give you certain information, but that doesn't mean that doesn't absolve you of the suggestion to ask the questions.
Yeah, that's so good. Let me give a couple shout outs. My girl, Tiffany, I'm about to say Jackson again. Tiffany Spriggs, my girl, I see you on. Selena King, I see you. She says, and the private schools are giving so many scholarships away due to COVID.
Yep.
Let me ask you this, because I do want to get into funding, but how early should parents start to plan for their child's college education?
Well, there's two ways you can plan. There's exposure and then there's finances. Now, planning for college financially is hard because it requires that you start saving super duper early, like from the moment that the child is born, so that there's time for the savings to capitalize, all the interest to capitalize. If you haven't done that, don't worry. Even though scholarships are getting more and more limited, there are still opportunities to reduce the cost of education. So what I tell people is, instead of worrying about paying the large balance, I refer people to reduce the balance. There's several ways you can reduce the balance. And I can give Pastor Cook these links as well. So don't feel like you have to write this down. But one recommendation, and I know if you're in Erie, this isn't an option right at this exact second, but it could become an option. If you can take classes at a community college, do it. Do it, because that's going to be a lot cheaper than taking them at the 4-year school that you end up going to. The second way is to look for something, like one resource is called Straighter Edge. And basically you can take general education classes for like $100 online, and they transfer to any university. And I'll give Pastor Cook all of these links. So my suggestion is to reduce the cost. Don't look at the balance, just reduce the cost, because the balance is going to be what the balance is. You can also reduce the cost by not living on campus. So if you're able to live at home and commute, that is sometimes advantageous. Another way to reduce the cost is see if you can work at the school. Some universities have co-op programs where you might work in the dining hall, or you might work in facilities with events. And in exchange for that work, you can get money off of your tuition and fees. So lots of different ways to work it, but it does involve you starting sooner rather than later, especially if you're talking about enrolling in classes early. So I said access. Oh, and so that's the finance. The access piece I want to talk about. You can actually start that immediately. So, and by immediately, I mean, if you have a child that's on your hip or a child that is driving, there are little college going behaviors, I call them, that you can cultivate. Go to athletic events at universities. When universities have plays or speakers or anything that the community is invited to, go to those events, because what that does is it starts to normalize the collegiate environment. With what I do, I worked for a university, and I cannot tell you the number of times where a student shows up for move-in for fall, and this is the first time they have ever been at any university, let alone the one that they're getting ready to go to. And I don't begrudge that. It's an access thing, right? Not everyone can afford to go on college tours, but when you talk about what can families be doing now, well, if again, college going behaviors are small habits that you can start very early just to normalize the thought process of going to college. So athletic events are the best way, because a lot of students will say, "Oh, I remember going to a football game." I know, like if you're from Erie, everybody knew about the Audi games. That is a way to normalize college going behaviors.
Yeah, that is so good. The Because there's so many people that get right up to the time the child's supposed to go, and now they're trying to scramble, trying to
Yeah,
figure out grant opportunities, working through loans, and then because they haven't given themselves time, they don't know what type of opportunities are out there.
yeah,
So I think that's conversation around starting or early, and in that word you use, to normalize
yep.
the idea of college, and and even a love for education, I
Hmm.
think is really important for parents and grandparents to really consider.
Definitely. And just in your daily conversations, this is something that we do with our kids, and I recognize that it's a privilege.
Mhm.
But in any situation that we find ourselves in, if one of our kids comments on someone's work or something they do, we will just use that as an opportunity to say that person may have majored in engineering, for example, or that person may have gone to school for construction. And let's be clear, I'm normalizing all of post-secondary education, the trades, 4 year, 2 year, we all the things, because
Right.
we are highly underrepresented in the trades as well. So we just had a leak in our house, and when the person came to fix it, I was making sure that my oldest knew that person probably makes as much money as people that you think make a lot of money, and they did not go to a 4 year school. They went to a 2 year technical school, and they have a skilled trade. So you have to normalize that we are already steeped in education anyway, but we're not using education language.
Yeah, that's so good. So, and I think that might be a good segue for me, because I want to talk about career paths with you, because I'm having all of these conversations with people. I did my undergrad. I even have a master's degree, and I feel like I'm making just as much money as somebody working at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like for some of them, the conversations that I'm having, there's a question about the actual career I chose,
Hmm.
because I have all this loan debt,
Uh,
but the money that I can make in this profession really doesn't justify the amount that I took out for loans. And
right.
so, can you kind of talk about that, help us to kind of wade through that, so parents can help
Yeah.
kids at an early age think through career paths?
Yes. So at this point, we're in 2021 now. The careers that are the biggest money makers, so the most income stable, are STEM, STEM. So science, tech, engineering, math, those fields, medicine. Um, but I don't love to drive people toward those areas, because if you pursue the money, you will miss the fulfillment. Now it's different if you really you're both passionate and going into a lucrative field.
Mhm.
But education, the arts, social services are the essential work of the country, of the world. And while they may not pay as much on a bi-weekly basis, sometimes you get more flexible benefits and longer term satisfaction than you get in the higher paying fields that are also really, really demanding. So this goes back to the career path question goes back to my original point of, instead of looking at the cost of attendance, look at ways to reduce what you invest. So students that are that believe, for example, that they're going to be teachers. Teachers, unfortunately, are one of the lowest paid occupations coming out of undergrad, which is it's just obnoxious. But it is what it is. And so what I tell students is, if that's what you know you're going to do, if you're going to go into one of those more baseline careers, that's your passion, still go for it, but reduce your undergraduate costs as much as possible. So go to the least expensive undergraduate school you can, the least expensive. That way you can take out less loans. Because another thing that I tell people is, we can compare 3 different public schools. Penn State is public. We'll go with what's Edinburgh is public, and then like Temple is public as well. But all 3 of them cost very different in tuition. But when you graduate from any of those 3 schools, if you're a teacher, you're going to make the same thing. Like, you don't get more money because you went to Pitt or Drexel or Penn State. You still get the same starting salary. So because of that, reduce your costs as much as you can before the career process. Then you're not forced to be in a position where you're choosing a career based on income rather than effectiveness and ministry and calling, because those things are way more important than anything else. Those are what's going to keep you healthy and give you longevity. But right, there might be people here that are like, okay, that's great, but I didn't have that advice before I started. Right. So now, couple things. One, this is financial aid. If you have student loans, federal student loans, because there are also private student loans, which are totally different. So we're going to move those aside. You should not be paying your student loans right now. I want this recorded. Let it go out to the masses. Because one of the things that the previous administration did before leaving office was put everyone's federal student loans in forbearance. That is a good thing. And then our current administration extended that forbearance. So what forbearance means, it's like buying a car. You take out a loan, but the bank says, whoa, 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 the country's in bad shape. I'm going to make the car payments for you until we catch up. That's what a forbearance is. So right now, the government is making all of our payments. So you should not be making payments right now if you have a federal loan. If you are, please reach out to Pastor Cook so he can reach out to me and I can get you out of this, because you are entitled to a refund, boo-boo. This, you should not be paying at all. Second thing is, if once we go back into repayment for federal loans, if you work for a nonprofit, like government or in a school system, that's everything. You can work in everything from cafeteria to the principal. If you work for a church, if you there's so many nonprofits out there. If you're in Erie, GCAC, all of those types of nonprofits, you should only be paying 10% of your income for your student loan. And so what that looks like on a larger scale, say you have $80,000 in debt, which is not uncommon, and you make, I'm just going to throw out a random amount, say you make $45,000, $50,000, your student loan payment shouldn't even be more than $50 because you work for a nonprofit. So there are lots of ways to, again, it's about reducing. The debt is already there, right? The career, you already have it. We have to reduce where we are, because it's easier to reduce where we are than to completely shift gears. Some of you may be so far into a career that it's going to be hard to pivot. So we have to work on that student loan debt. But you shouldn't be paying it if it's a federal loan, and your payment should be really low if you're working at a nonprofit. Really low.
That is good. Let me take a question from the comment section on my personal page. First of all, my cousin says, wow, I remember her when she was a little gal at Shiloh. Man, it's been years, but your face hasn't changed one bit.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, girl.
Yes. Tiffany says, is it beneficial for high school students to do STEM programs outside of their school, will that look good to a college they want to attend?
I think it'll look good if they're going into a STEM field at a competitive university.
Mhm.
So if you have the funds and the resources to invest in these supplemental learning experiences, absolutely do it. Do it, do it, do it. Because it's fun. And anything that makes students feel connected to education and happy is a good thing, especially if it's not extending you financially to do it. But if the student is has no interest in STEM and is going to go to perhaps just a general liberal arts public school, it's not going to help or hurt because the admissions door at most public schools, swings a lot wider than it does at your more private and more selective schools. So the answer to the question really depends on where they're going and what career they're interested in. But the more education experiences you can have, the better, technically, but you just never want to overextend yourself in doing it.
Yeah, that is good. Selena King says, can you speak to high school juniors and seniors taking college courses to help with cutting costs, etc.? And then the second part of the question is, can you also speak to the SAT and ACT testing changes for admission?
Okay, first of all, I hate the SAT and the ACT, so can we start there? Um,
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
let's start there. Most schools have waived their SAT and ACT requirement for 2021 entry. So if your university, if the universities that the students are looking for are still asking for a SAT, my personal opinion is that they're trash because the equity pieces of it, most of our underrepresented students don't even have a shot at getting these really narrow SAT and ACT dates. It used to be that there were many, many, many dates and you could just retake it and travel. Well, those opportunities have been amputated, and it's Black and brown people and lower income people that have been affected by that. And so if a university doesn't recognize that and they're still requiring it, to me, that's not it's not a great look for the university, because it makes me wonder, what are their other lenses as it relates to equity? Like, you're still asking for an SAT when we're in a global pandemic. Okay. But having said that, most have waived the requirement. Most are saying we'll just look at high school grades, which is what it should be. But anyway, so if you can take the SAT, the ACT, the magic number is to take it 3 times. Most schools do what's called a super score, where they take the highest of either section, and then the other scores disappear. They don't consider them. So super scoring is a great question to ask the different universities. Do you all super score? And then to Selena's question about taking college classes in high school, that's a huge recommendation of mine because it saves you money. And that's what we want. Again, the goal is to reduce your costs as much as possible. And that's a really great way to do it. So if a high school offers it, if there's some sort of partnership relationship with a community college that's in the area, take advantage of that because it is cheaper there than it is in college. And it's even more discounted if the student's in high school. So yeah.
Good. Thank you so much for that. Shantae Pulliam has a question. She says, for those students who may be they're undecided, are there any tests available that will help them to decide on which path to take, Myers-Briggs, etc.?
Yeah. So it's funny that she mentioned Myers-Briggs. I love MBTI. Myers-Briggs is one. The one thing about Myers-Briggs, it's one of the oldest and the longest assessments, but it's not actually a career assessment. It's a personality assessment. So what you can do is take the personality characteristics and then link them to different careers, but there still requires some research on your own for that. But I do love the MBTI. What I would recommend that students do is ask for the career assessments from the university, because the university is going to have something that they can then track and follow up with. Something called Focus is a really, really big one. Most universities have it. You can ask the university that you're going to for a personality test or assessment. and say, because I'm unsure about what I want to major in. And so what assessments do you offer? So MBTI is great for personality. Love it. I also love Enneagram. Love Enneagram. So if you don't know about that, get into that. But they're not career assessments, right? And then one more is called Holland's Self-Directed Search. I like him as well. I like his work. But yeah, I encourage students to do assessments all the time. It's a great, and students are used to it because all these HuffPo surveys that they're always doing on their phone, and so they're very similar.
Are there any assessments you recommend for those who want to figure out maybe an idea for a career path? Or would you just say that they should do one of the personality assessments?
Yeah, I would say focus, but focus isn't something that they can get on their own. They have to get it through their university. But I'm sure they could do it. Like they could say, I'm interested in going to Gannon University, but I don't know what I want to major in. What assessment can you give me? And use, whatever they have. Because a lot of the assessments they're not public. They're institutional things. So
great. That's good to know. I didn't realize we were gonna get so many questions live, but that's a good thing. I'm glad to hear. Greg Barney has a question for you. Are a lot of colleges waiving their application fee?
Listen, Greg, don't pay no application fee, okay? Listen, can we just talk about it? Yeah. Listen, we are in a global pandemic right now, and every single university is hurting for enrollment. And I'm just going to come right out and say that most universities need the students more than the students need the university right now. And that is just basic economics of supply and demand. Yeah. So what I would recommend is that you first ask the university, what are your criteria for a application fee waiver? For some people, the only criteria is that you ask for it. That's it. If you ask, they'll give you one. Another criteria might be that you do a virtual campus tour. So sit down with your student, right at the computer, do a virtual campus tour, fill out the survey at the end, and then request your fee waiver. A lot of alumni are able to give fee waivers. So if you know someone that went to the university, you can go to them and say, hey, I'm interested in applying to the school you went to. Can I have a fee waiver? And then the alumni have a way to get it from the alumni association. So that's a way to build ongoing relationships. And then also income is always, again, depends on how equitable the school is, but income is always supposed to be taken into consideration. And so an application fee should not be a barrier at all. And it's similar to the other answer I said. If the school is giving you side eye about asking for a fee waiver, that to me is a red flag on other things as it relates to equity and access.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And just so you all know, the ones who are asking me questions on my personal page, for some reason the technology won't allow me to put your questions on screen, but those who are watching on YouTube or the churches, I'm able to get it up on screen. Kristin, can you see this question from Miss Ray Ann? My granddaughter is taking a college class, but she's not sure why and what it's going to do for her. I guess when she graduates next year, is it worth her time to continue to take this class?
So my question for her to ask her school counselor is, who gets the transcript? So there are two types of college classes. There are college level classes that are called high school, but you only get a high school transcript. The second type is a college class that is just taking place at the high school. So it could be like Mercyhurst. I don't know if they still do, but Mercyhurst used to hold classes at the Booker T. So even though the Booker T is not a college, Mercyhurst used that space. So you would leave the Booker T with a Mercyhurst College transcript, Mercyhurst University now transcript. So the question that your granddaughter needs to ask her school counselor is, which transcript am I getting? Am I getting a high school transcript out of this or a college transcript out of this? If she's getting a college transcript out of it, don't quit, because that is one less class that you have to take in college. If she's only getting a high school transcript out of it, then it's just up to her as whether or not she likes it. Is it beneficial to her own well-being? but because in the end, it's not going to save her anything in college. But if she's getting a college transcript, that is one less class you have to pay for. So I would say don't quit that.
Yeah, that's some good information. Let me see. Miss Rand has another one. She said all the girls graduate next year, and they all have a 4-year CTE childhood development program. What can they use, or I guess can they use the certificate after they graduate?
So I am not familiar with the CTE certificate.
I'm not either.
My guess, I don't even know if I could guess on that. If it's at the high school level, I've never heard of a professional CTE certificate. So my guess is it's just something nice that they want to offer students. This actually goes back, Pastor Cook, to the idea of normalizing higher education.
Right.
So if a student feels efficacious about being able to say, look, I already have a certificate, or I already have this or that, that's a good thing. And it kind of normalizes the idea of higher education leading to different earnings. So I don't know exactly about CTE, but it doesn't sound like something that is at the college level. But it might just be really good and make them feel good, which is, I'm all about people feeling good. You feel good, you make better decisions. So
yeah, that's good. And Miss Rand, that might be a question that you might have to ask the school. Kristin,
yeah.
can you give her some language that she can use when she
Can I
goes to
type
the
it?
school to ask about it?
If I type it, what will it do? Or nothing? It won't do anything.
No, you want to type something in the comment section?
I was gonna type what she could say, but I can also just say
Yeah,
it.
no, you can. You can type it in the comment section.
Okay. I don't know if I can actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can. Because I don't see a box. But Rayanne, you can just go to the school counselor and say, regarding this CTE program, is it going to give my granddaughter a college transcript or a high school transcript? If it's only going to be a high school transcript, smile and be grateful, but it's not going to do anything long term, but it's nice. And we like nice things. But if it's going to be a college transcript, then you want to have an even bigger smile because it's going to save her money if she goes to 4-year school.
That's so good. I want to swing back around on something. As my father-in-law always says, at the risk of being redundant, I want to go back here because Erie, of course, there's a whole bunch of conversation going on right now about a community college. I've got a really good friend of mine graduated from MIT. But what a lot of people don't know is that he spent his first 2 years at a community college. And he says nobody asks him about those 2 years he spent at community college. And he tells me that was a good bridge for him as also because he struggled a little bit in high school trying to figure out what he wanted to do. And so he's one of those guys that always talks about the benefit of community college, getting those 2 years in there first and then going on. And so I want to talk about that a little bit more, but also the advantages of possibly going to a state school, some advantages of maybe doing school in state versus going out of state.
Yeah. So I'm the biggest fan of community colleges there are. Biggest fan ever. And because again, I'm coming from a place of how can you reduce your cost? And a community college is a really, really great way to reduce your costs. So if you have the option, take as many community college classes as you can. Most community colleges, you can start at 16 years old. So there are some, and look, we have Black and Brown excellence on here, and I know that. And there are some people that are already ready to be taking collegiate level classes at community colleges. So at the age of 16, some will take you at 15. I know RAC down here in Lehigh Valley, we're kind of where we are. You can start at 15. So I'm a huge proponent of community colleges, and your friend is right. No one asks where you got your associate's degree from. They only ask where you got your bachelor's degree from. And then when you get your master's, nobody asks about your bachelor's degree. Then you get a doctorate, nobody asks anything. They're just like, oh, okay, it must be smart. You're not. But so yes, do the community college route for anybody that has the option. Do it. Secondly, I can't say that in-state schools are still the cheapest post-COVID. Like this, if we're having this conversation 2 years ago, I'd be like, go in-state all the way. But now, everybody is competitive because everyone is hurting. So between tuition discounting, between scholarships, the costs are getting really competitive. So I say, look at everything. Look at everything, because you don't know what the final dollar amount is going to be.
And I don't know if you saw that story about that girl who applied to like 50 schools and everybody was giving her a hard time about it. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, let her live. Like we don't know her story. Right. She might be a first generation student. Yeah. Like you're talking about somebody whose family may have been enslaved, may have never had an opportunity to learn to read. And here this queen is getting admitted to 70 schools or something like that. Yeah. Let her live. Yeah. Let her live. Because remember what I told Greg, you should not be paying for college application fees anyway. Right. So she probably did not pay for those applications. And once you have done the essay for one or two schools, all you do is use the same thing over and over again. So let her live. Yeah. Apply to as many schools as you want. Just don't pay for it. Right. We're not paying for that. My Wakanda, we don't do that here.
Right.
We don't pay.
I know you're right. Yeah, that is good. Give us some and since we're talking about paying for school, do you have any thoughts about finding grants? How can we do that research? And just give us some insight there.
I don't have great news, and I just think it's important to be upfront and honest about that, because 15 years ago, if you were low income, you could pretty much count on financial aid covering the cost of your education. But now the problem with that is that the amount that was allotted, grants, scholarships 15 years ago is still right here, but the cost of attendance is now here.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. It's not that you've done anything wrong. It's not that you are a problem. So many people are like, my income is so low. Why isn't my child going to school for free? That's why, because this is what the government is offering, but this is what the schools cost. So there's a huge gap in the middle. There's two words that I want to give you that I want you to avoid if you can, but also understand for some people it is necessary. And I want you to make an informed choice. I don't want to tell you not to do something. I don't want to tell you to do something. I want whatever you do to be informed. There is something called a private loan. They are very, well, let me speak more positively. They can be very burdensome long-term. So a private loan is a loan from like your bank or Discover card or something like a credit card. So, like if you buy a car, the car loan, I think is like 54 months. I don't even know what it is. Maybe it's 24 months, but you get a set payment for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
A private loan is not like that for school. You just keep paying and paying and paying and paying. And it's very difficult to see an end in sight. The problem with it is that, going back to my example, scholarships and grants are here. The cost of attendance is now here. So you need a way to fill in this gap right here. And if you don't have your own savings or, private resources, meaning your bank account, most of our students, especially Black and brown students, end up in that private loan category, and they're just not the greatest loans. Having said that, some people absolutely need them. It's the only way they can go to school. If it's the only way and you are 150% committed to going to school quickly and full time, like you're not willing to go part time while you work, then a private loan is going to be a possibility, but you just have to not over borrow. So if your bill is $1,000, then take out $999 in private loans, not $1,001. And I mean one. Like try to go as low under that threshold as possible, because private loans can never be forgiven. Private loans are not discharged in bankruptcy. And that's huge. That's huge because we don't know what the future is going to bring. There's tons of people that have had to file for bankruptcy because of the economic climate. Come here, CJ. It has nothing to do with them personally. Can you get my laptop charger, please? It's not this one. My CJ just came in here. No. Yeah, it's downstairs by my desk. So they can't be discharged in bankruptcy. They can't. And you just don't want to be saddled with that. So as much as possible, try to reduce the cost of where you're going, either by going part-time, doing some sort of work program, going to a community college. But if you have to do a private loan, do it super, super responsibly. Like, private loans also require a cosigner. That's the other thing. So depending on your family's credit, that could be an issue as well.
That's some really good information. I was just having a conversation with my sister. There's so many folk, even today, that's paying loans back for degrees that they don't have.
That's big.
So that's a major piece of advice. Let me kind of shift here because I know you can give some of these high school seniors going to be thinking about college on next year. You can give them probably some good advice here, probably from some of your personal background at Bloomsburg and whatnot. What's the first thing they ought to be thinking about when they get on campus? Who are some of the people that they need to be talking to that first 2 to 3 weeks on campus? What do they need to be paying attention to?
Avoid anyone that you are attracted to.
The good info. Good stuff.
Listen. Like, that's the first thing.
Yeah.
If you are attracted to someone, avoid them. Because Pastor Cook asked for the first month. I'm giving you the first month. The first month
Run
you are on campus. Listen, it's like going into, y'all know I love Target. I do not go into Target on payday. You know when I go into Target? I go when I'm a week out from pay because I have no money and I know I can't go in there and act a fool. So imagine being in Target and every day is payday.
Yeah.
That is what the first 30 days of college is. Let's be real about it.
Yeah.
So don't do it.
Omega Psi Phi. I see you, Greg.
Oh, avoid the Omegas. No. But in all reality, it's funny, but it's real.
No, I got you.
It is. It's like avoid anything that's going to be a distraction. 100%, 100%, and that's for safety reasons because you don't. When you're in your first 30 days, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So the blinders that you have in those first 30 days of education, first 30 is actually the first 6 weeks. It's called the red zone.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you don't know. So avoid any person that you're attracted to. Be around people you're not attracted to because they're far less likely to distract you. And I mean distract you attraction-wise, distract you behavior-wise, study habits, all of the temptations that all of us are privy to. They are amplified in the first 6 weeks. It is Target on payday. So there's that. Second thing in the first 6 weeks, do not ask questions to anyone that does not pay their mortgage based on the answer they give you. Because this is what happens. So going back to point number 1, little Tasha wants to go to college and she gets there and she's great. She's excited. And then she wants to ask a question to the person that's attractive because that person is a junior or a senior and they're also attractive. Well, that attractive junior or senior can tell you what was true for them, but you're now a freshman. So things have every year, things change every year. That's why you need to ask questions to someone who pays their mortgage based on the answer they give you, not someone who's attractive. Students inherently want to talk to other students, and I get it. That's normal. We all as adults want to do that. When I have a mommy question, I'm not going to my pediatrician. I should, but I'm going to other moms. Like, that's normal. But when you need information, you're talking about investing thousands of dollars in your education. Ask questions to the people that get paid to show up at work.
Yeah.
That is so important. Those are the two biggest things.
My goodness, that is good. And we were just talking to church about the importance of relationships.
Mhm.
People can drain you, or they can add value to you. They can
That's the
take you
truth.
up, or they can pull you down. And so that is true, not just in your romantic relationships, but friendships, business
Yep.
relationships, so many areas in life. So I really, really appreciate that. Let's go here for a minute,
Mhm.
because there is a new reality. So some of these kids might be doing their first semester online. So they might have to engage in some online classes. They might be corresponding with a professor online. How would you help them to navigate that?
That's me.
Yeah.
That's me. Like, this is the face that is begging you to show up for class.
Yeah.
This is me 2 nights a week
Yeah.
begging my students to show up. Don't leave me lonely. Like, I want you to think about this poor sad face. So honestly, online is really funky. We
Yeah.
don't, and educators don't love it either. So the best way to be successful is to make it mutually beneficial. So show up for class, even though it's online. It's hard. And I'm telling you now, some of your professors are not great at online teaching. I'm not saying I'm great at it, but we're doing it because we have to. We can't not teach you. And and some professors never intended to be online professors. They never, that was never part of their career trajectory. You want to talk about it. And now they're finding themselves in this position. My heart goes out to them. I have so many faculty friends who are super introverted and very shy, where in a small, intimate classroom, they're able to be effective, but it's hard online. So, students, while you're thinking, oh my God, this is awful, it's the worst professor ever, grace goes both ways. Not all of us are cut out for this life. Like, it is hard. So it goes both ways. It goes both ways. And very many of you probably will be doing online classes because all the universities are still adjusting to density restrictions and what classes do translate online versus which ones that don't. Like, every day we're creating new curricula. So it really is just going to require patience and still showing up. Like, don't blow off the class. I know for me, I was super gracious with my students. If they came, like, I just gave them credit for that because it's hard to show up, as a person when you're in a pandemic and then to sit online. So the grace goes both ways, but do show up. If you totally disengage, you're not going to feel like you're a student. You're not going to normalize those student behaviors. If nothing else, showing up helps you with your time management. So that's good too.
That is good, and I know, like, we're just in a whole new world. But as we kind of swing back around, I mean, I think that there's a lot of great takeaways that you gave us on today. Just that idea of not feeling like, when I have whatever my tuition is, that I got to pay it all. I need to think
Yeah.
about reducing it. And you and
Mhm.
you and you gave us ways to actually think through that. Also, I think another major takeaway is, I think some people may walk away from this conversation knowing they need to do some more research,
Mhm.
because COVID has impacted the rates on tuition.
Yep.
So I think that's a major piece for some people that thought this school was too much or that school was too much.
Check
You told
again.
us, check again. We need
Check
to,
again. Listen, stand at the door and knock and let it open.
yeah,
And throw out COVID. Say
yeah,
hello in light of COVID.
yeah,
Are there some discounts? Like,
yeah,
listen, this is the time to ask the questions.
right.
Like, this is the time. We don't need to be shy.
I know that's right. Now, have you worked in admissions and financial aid and all those different things?
So not financial aid, but I've always been in enrollment management. So that would be admissions. So I've done undergrad admissions, grad admissions, adult admissions, and international admissions. So
Okay.
I've covered it all. Financial aid is like a sister to admissions, so I know a lot about it, but I haven't worked officially in it. I'm not real great at math.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that.
Gotcha. So you've I do want you to give some closing thoughts, but
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, you've got don't you have a business you run helping
I
parents or whatnot?
do.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I have a few. So I own and operate KE Advancement Inc., which is a poly interest firm where I help people get to the next level, whether it's career, college, or in like life's stuck spots, because we all get stuck.
Yeah.
But my big emphasis is career and college. So if you are here, then I help you get here, and whatever that looks like, whatever it is. It might be I need help getting from a high school senior to a college freshman, or I need help getting from a college junior to a college senior. So whatever that advancement spot is, I'm your girl, and I love it. And I just love seeing people advance, whatever that looks like, whether trade schools, college, career. So I do a lot with like, I'm also a writer. So I do a lot with like resumes and cover letters and biographies. I just love to write. Like that's my love language. That's my communication language. So if I could just write, that would be better. But here we are, Catty Cathy. So yeah, that's what I do.
Good stuff. Good stuff. If people wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that? Find
So
a
my
bit.
email, okay, like I'm a millennial, but I'm not on Instagram or Twitter.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be because I spend enough time on Facebook and you have to know yourself. You have
Yeah.
to be self-aware.
Gotcha.
So I am on Facebook. I think just as Kristin Austin, pretty sure. But my email address is a lot better because I spend a lot of time at my computer. So my email address is dr as in doctor, kr as in the first two letters of my name. So drkr 2018 at outlook.com.
ERKR 2018 at Outlook.
Yep.
Outlook.com. Let's see if I can get this on screen.
Oh, fancy. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's me. And like if you're in the college search process, and you're like, this feels a little weird. I need to ask someone. I'm someone.
Yeah.
And just ask. Tell them Pastor Cook sent you. Tell me Pastor Cook sent you. I'll be like, oh, okay, no problem. Yeah.
Good stuff. I got some clout in some places.
Yep, you got to use it. You got to say Pastor, because otherwise I'll send you an invoice.
Right.
I'll make sure you say, look, Pastor Cook told me to ask, and I'll be like, all right, yes, we're going to get this together.
That'll work. Look, that is amazing. I did this with Tiffany. I got to do it with you. This is my begging segment. You got to promise me that you're gonna come back on because I know folk are gonna have some more questions.
I'm happy to. I'm happy to.
Yeah, yes, indeed. We gotta make it happen because you just touched on just so much today. Did I? Oh, I didn't make sure Selena wasn't correcting me because Selena is always calling out my typos, and I saw something in the comment section. I had to make sure I I didn't misspell.
It's right. It looks right to me.
Yeah. Susan Hayes says, "Ask her."
Listen,
All caps.
see, I'll tell you everything.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, Kristin, closing thoughts, or I'm sorry, Dr. Kristin Austin. Any closing closing thoughts? Anything you want to leave the people with?
So, closing thoughts. Oh, my husband just walked in. Hello there. Closing thoughts about education. Don't rush it, but also don't put it off. So that's really, really big. I see so many situations where students rush into a four-year institution and they're not ready. Something that I tell my students all the time is you can absolutely major in partying, but you will not get a degree in it. Yeah. So that is very important to keep in mind. So if you already struggle with time management in high school and making good decisions when someone's not around to see that decision, if you have some of those struggles already, you either need to work on them in high school or perhaps put college off for a little while. And the reason I say that is because you likely, if you put college off, which there's no shame in that, you might be working an underpaid job for about a year, and that will humble you. And then you will want to go to college, and you will appreciate it differently. So there is no shame in taking a gap year. Gap years used to be reserved for the upper socioeconomic class, but gap years are something that Black and brown people have been doing for years, and it was looked down upon. So yeah, so do what's going to be best for you financially and maturity wise, because not everybody it in other, I'll say this will be the last thing. In other countries, college starts much later. Only in the US do we send 17-year-olds to college. 17.
Yeah.
So yeah, 17. Y'all, some of y'all have 17-year-olds. Are you think they're ready? Other countries, they go at like 19 or 20 when there's been time for that frontal lobe development. But yeah. So that's all.
This has been great on tonight. This was awesome. Shantae Pulliam, thank you so much for being on today and for sharing. I know you have a lot of young women you work with, and you do such an excellent job with them. So thank you so much for being on. Tiffany, thank you for Tuesday. Tiffany says this was so amazing and informative. Amen. And of course, Greg says, thank you for your advice and time. So you have been a blessing to so many, all the different places that we find folk. Again, if you're on my personal page, the only reason your comments weren't on the screen is because I just couldn't do it. So I wasn't leaving you out, but I wanted to read your stuff. Those of you on the church's page, thank you. And those of you watching us on TV, on YouTube, we're grateful to have you as well. Dr. Austin, we look forward to having you back. I know you remember this name. Bernadette says, thank you, Dr. Austin.
I love her.
Amen. So
she owes me $1 million. That's an inside joke, but she knows she owes me $1 million.
Ooh, $1 million.
$1 million? Telling you.
I know those laughing emojis are coming.
Listen, you can pay. Listen, she can pay me a massage. I will take it.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Yeah, she can do that. Here she go.
Hey, I do it. Hey, that in itself is worth $1 million.
Yeah. Kristin, I know I'm throwing this on you, but can you just do this real quick? I just want to say a quick prayer for the folk in Texas. So if you don't mind, just closing us out in prayer for those in Texas, but also in any way that God might lead you to pray tonight.
Absolutely. Oh God, we love you so much. We thank you, God, that all things are from you. All good and perfect gifts are from you, God. And that even includes the gifts that we use to pursue education, to pursue our careers. All of this is ministry, God. Every opportunity is ministry. Every door you open is an opportunity for us to represent you, God. So we thank you for those opportunities. And because they're ministry, Lord, we ask that you would make clear to everyone on this call, every viewer, every listener, make clear what their calling is, where you want them to be, place them in the right schools, the right networks, the right careers. Just line us up. You're soldiers. That's what we want. We want to be lined up with you. We want you to just blow open the doors so that we can just show people who you are and how awesome you are, God. But in addition to that, God, we want to pray for our brothers and sisters that are in Texas, God. We know that your heart hurts when your children hurt. We know that it's painful for you too to just absorb what is going on, Lord. But I ask that these different natural disasters would be opportunities for all of us to just fall on our knees and surrender and look to you for answers, for directions, for recovery, for peace, all the things that all of our neighbors need right now, both in the pandemic, being affected by natural disasters. We just pray that this would bring us all to our knees to look at you for all things. You are such an amazing Father, God, and we love you. And I pray this blessing over every listener and every visitor and every guest. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Facebook family, YouTube family. Y'all be blessed. Another episode of Doing Life. We're out. Please note, service on Sunday, 9 o'clock. If you're at 12, I'm not going to be there. 9 o'clock, join me. I will see you on Sunday morning. Blessings and favor in your life is always my prayer.